Welcome to the AsOne Leadership Podcast. We're back today in the middle of a mini-series called Arts and Mission. And the title of today's episode is Curiosity Killed the Cat, but Sometimes It Opens Doors. And so our guest is Clinton Plowman. Welcome back, Clinton.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here so far.
It's been great having you with us. And
keeps on being that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so, yeah. But we're certainly learning a lot of stuff about arts and mission and how they intersect and the creative process. And today I just wanted to sort of dig into that curiosity as part of creativity, because I think that's really important. And even before we shot this today, you came into the studio and you're looking at all the cameras and stuff, and straight away I see you asking Nathan questions, and usually Nathan and I talk and I just nod my head politely, but I've got no idea what he's talking about. But you two were talking in like a different language and you understood what you were saying, but you were just asking questions.
Well, I love to learn.
Yeah.
I love to learn, and I know that if I learn something, that's something that I can implement as a skill.
Yeah, so that curiosity, I guess, makes you a bit like a sponge where you're just absorbing it all when you're learning as you go, which I think is important in the creative process. So getting to know you more recently, I have noticed that that's a real ability you have, an ability to be curious and to put yourself out there. And it's been really encouraging to hear how, when you've done that, God has opened doors for you that weren't open before.
Yeah, for sure.
So can you share some examples of that?
Oh, there's... From back in the day, I've always just had an ability to see something and see something that I can start doing and then move to what I want to do, or have a goal and then and figure my way through that. From doing little things when I was growing up and skateboarding and getting to know people and all that kind of stuff. It's become so much easier now with social media to get to know people or to find the right people to talk to and things like that. But one of the biggest thing I did was I was driving to work. I was working full-time, had an interest in photography. I think by then I'd shot my first wedding. I heard on the radio promoting the Shane Warne Foundation was doing a 2020 charity game. And I was like, oh, that would be fun. I'm a cricket kind of guy and love that stuff. So when I got there, I found their website. I gave them a call and said, look, I'm a photographer. I'm willing to donate my time to take photos of everything that happens during your event. Would you like me to come and produce photos for you so that you can use in the future? And I heard back after a little while. There's a whole backstory to what was going on there that I found out later. But they said, sure, we'd love for you to come. So I got there early. I helped them set up. As you're setting up, you're talking, you're communicating, you're building a relationship. I shot the whole event. I got more access than I thought, or they thought was even possible. And I just by, being nice and courteous. And I stayed and helped them clean up and do everything. And then I provided them with all the photos. I think back then it was on like a USB or a DVD or something like that. And lo and behold, with their next event, they actually called me and said, can you come and photograph our next event? And that was 10 years of doing work for them as a volunteer. But it's not what you know a lot of times, it's who you know. And I was able to network. And since then, I've gotten work from the St Kilda Football Club. I've been working for them now for 6 years.
Must be the pinnacle of your experience, I imagine.
Well, no, they're big events, so it's nerve-wracking to get the shots that they need. Best and fairest, and their game day events and things like that has been amazing. Also, getting to know the poker people through the poker events. Now I do a lot of poker tournaments and all that kind of stuff. Also connected with Harry Kuehl and doing all his training school. When he had a training school here, I was doing all the photography for that, traveled around with them to all their training camps, doing all their photography. So just that little fun thing, which was quite enjoyable for me just to volunteer and be involved with Shane Warne and all the people around that, all the cricket people, all the sporting people and personalities, was enjoyable for me. But then the bonus of all the extra things that came with that. The same thing happened with the TV Week Logie Awards. One year I was there as a spectator, and I was trying to find the best vantage point to get the best photos that I could. And then through other work that I was doing, I found that there was a way that I could get accredited through an image agency, and 10 years of shooting the Logie's red carpet, and also getting invited into the media room afterwards, and after people got their awards, they'd come, and there'd only be about 20 or 30 photographers there at that time, and you could get one-on-ones with everybody. And came up. I got my way into that, and that happens with the A-League sports and the Australian Open and other things that I've done.
I think that's just fascinating that sometimes it's just a bit of proactivity and a bit of curiosity that can actually open up a whole myriad of opportunities that most people would just go, oh, I'd love to do the Shane Warne charity event, but that would just stop there.
Yeah.
But you took the next step, pick up the phone, ring them, and I guess probably prepared for rejections if they come as well, but you never know.
Yeah, but finding that way around it, or finding the back door, like to get into the sports photography, what I did was I knew that I needed a portfolio because I had nothing to show people. So you've got to be able to show people work. So I would just drive around on the weekends, find any sport that I could to try and find, to get good photos, that I build a portfolio that I could show an image agency and say, you can be our person in Melbourne. And did the A-Leagues. The A-League was when Melbourne Victory was actually winning.
Yeah, back in the
day. So I did 3 grand finals.
Yeah, wow.
That was an amazing experience, including Japan versus Australia, which is like the biggest game I've ever photographed at the MCG. And then doing the tennis. The last tennis game I photographed was when Djokovic won that I think it was like 5.5 hours. The game didn't finish till like 1 o'clock in the morning. And you're sitting courtside at a men's final, and it's just like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, like,
probably
how did I get here?
A lot of coffee to keep you going to 1 o'clock.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because then after that was like all the ceremonies and then the walking around, meeting and people. So we weren't done till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So I just love that. A lot of people just sit around and wait for it to happen, but you've been really proactive. And in fact, that's how I met you. So it's through some local council stuff.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting story to that as well.
Yeah. So we moved into this area about 13 years ago, and I was trying to find, was there business networks? I think at the time there was a Pakenham Business Network and different things like that.
Yep.
And I got a flyer from the council for their breakfast series that they were doing. So I didn't like the design of it.
You thought I could do better than that.
Well, exactly. And I was like, well, okay. So I redesigned their flyer, sent it to them, and said, if you like it, you can use it. Just give me a free ticket to the breakfast. And they said, yeah, we like it. We're actually sending it out. Here's your ticket to the event. So I came and, you get to network with people and do things. And it cost me, about an hour here, which is my favorite meal of the day. And they do really good at the cultural centre.
Nice.
It took me about an hour of my time to redesign it and send it out as a PDF. And lo and behold, the next one comes around and they actually asked me, can you redesign the next one? So I was getting paid to do it and getting a free ticket, which I put into the quote. Yeah. And then I started doing that, and I said, oh, by the way, I also do photography. And so there was certain events that they started photography, and then I got involved in council, and I've been working for council more than 10 years now. And just recently I just did the mayor's portrait again, did portraits of the outgoing mayor and his family, and then portraits of the new mayor and all the new councillors and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, wow. Very good. Well, I met you at one of those award ceremonies, so that was really good. And
I got to take your photo for the Citizen of the Year and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you made me look pretty when I looked like a completely different person. So it was a magician over here.
Yeah.
It's great. But I just hope people are really inspired listening to this, particularly people that are sort of budding creatives. They don't know how to get involved. They're thinking, I've tried applying for jobs, nothing's coming my way. You can actually get proactive, build a portfolio, and then when you do apply for jobs, you got a whole bunch of stuff you can show them. And I imagine you've probably just enjoyed the process along the way. You're meeting interesting people, you're shooting interesting things, and I just love that about that. So not everyone's naturally curious. Yeah. So how do you think we can cultivate creative curiosity in people?
Well, as I think we mentioned before, I have a strong belief that church needs to be in the community. And I want to go to a church like Follow that is in the community that I'm living in and a part of that community and being proactive in helping that community become better. And so my thing was the art. I'm also vice president of the Pakenham Art Show. I want to get back. I was very involved in the Pakenham Camera Club, and I want to get back into that. I was also doing classes through the different community centres on cartooning for kids and basic photography and portrait photography. And I'm also going to be involved in the upcoming Cardinia Festival, and I've got some classes that I'm working on right now that will be released soon.
Very exciting. Stay tuned.
Yeah, a series of classes about photography that will be paid for by the council.
Yeah, I just love that you've got passionate people that love Jesus, that find themselves in the community, in the arts world, having an impact and building relationships. And I think for us as a church, and when we say as a church, it's all individuals within a church, how can we each find ways to connect with people, whether it's our next door neighbour or whether it's through a council or through a footy club or whatever. I think the more we can sort of get into those spaces, the more opportunity we've got. So I love that, man. I think you're pioneering a lot of stuff there.
Well, and it's not trying to be like some kind of crazy advocate when you're in that, but just being you in that place speaks volumes. Yeah, because you're if whether you're on a board or anything like that, you get to be an influence in that board and help them steer making decisions and things like that. So
and they're seeing your integrity, they're seeing your character, they're seeing you're a representative of the kingdom of God in that space, which is really cool. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your own creativity. And I think I said in a previous episode that I didn't know I could sketch at all, and I'm still no Picasso. Was he a sketcher? I don't know. I'm no Picasso. But I enjoy it, and I'm probably better at it than I thought I would be. But you've got some tips for me to help me get even better. But for me, I surprised myself creatively because I never thought I was creative, and I surprised myself, I can actually do it a bit better than I thought. So in what ways have you surprised yourself creatively over the years?
Photography is probably the one thing that I keep. It's always a bit of a joke because, when I'm doing photos, I'm on a shoot. I love shooting people with my camera.
Yeah, good. Just to clarify. Yep.
I love the interaction. I love that if I'm happy and upbeat and I'm speaking positively, I can see that reflected back to me from that person that I'm talking to, and that's really encouraging to me. And just the simple little things that I know, if I can be positive and build that person, then they're going to reflect that back to me, and that shows in the photos.
Awesome. So we've talked a little bit about, surprising ourselves creatively and learning from others, and I'm sure there's been people that you've learned a lot from along the way. What unique role can faith communities play in this? So when you've got people volunteering and stuff, how can we uniquely create a space for people to grow in their creativity, do you think?
I think a lot of times people just need encouragement. They just need to be encouraged, and trying to find ways that you can encourage them. How can you encourage them? By giving them time, by giving them a place to present their work. Maybe it is even like we were saying before, like a singer would just sing a number during the service or during communion or something like that. Somebody's just playing a song. Or maybe there is a time when an artist can present a piece of work that they've done and just explain it and share their testimony through the painting that they've just done, or having a little gallery as people walking in with just 6 or 7 easels where people can display work that they've done recently, photographs, something like that too. That could be easily done on a Facebook page. A little inspirations for people. Maybe it's a quote. Maybe it's even like at the Pakenham Art Show, we've got a section of wearable art. Maybe it's either a piece of fashion or just showing off the talents in the church, I think, can be encouraging for everybody.
My daughter's just started a makeup course, and it's all sorts of makeup, all the way from the fashion shoots all the way through to kind of movie makeup and that sort of stuff. And it's amazing just seeing the creativity come out in all those different looks. And we don't typically think of makeup as the same as like painting or photography or whatever, but it's a beautiful way of art and beauty coming together. And And I think, just highlighting even people like that within our congregation.
Yep.
A couple of weeks ago at church, we interviewed someone who'd written a book.
Yeah.
And the creativity that
Yep.
goes into that. And I think the more we can sort of elevate and highlight those people, we can show people how they can use those gifts to glorify God. So I think that's really, really awesome. And, when you watch things like Australian Idol or The Voice or whatever, it's amazing how many of those people come from a church background.
Yeah.
Because
they've been given the opportunity
Exactly.
to sing, and they already have experience singing in front of people. They've already had experience working with an AV team.
Yep.
They've already so they're really primed to go. They've got all this experience. They've got how their voice to project their voice. All those things. Project their voice in an auditorium and all that kind of stuff. So they've really got a lot of experience and given a lot of opportunity to get that experience before they even go on a show like that.
Yeah, they get feedback along the way as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's the regularity, isn't it? So if you're not in a faith community, for example, and you want to develop as a singer, you take opportunities as they come.
Yeah.
They may be every few months or whatever. But when you're singing in a worship team, for example, you may be on every week or every second week.
Yeah.
And it's ongoing.
Yeah.
I think you touched on it before. The two things that come together is the regularity of it and the opportunity.
Yeah.
And the other part is the grace and the love and the encouragement that comes in a Christian community.
Yeah.
Because often, if you do it once and you don't do it that well, if you're not in a faith community, it's like, oh, well, maybe it's not your gift. But in a faith community, we're able to sort of take that, develop it, encourage it. And those two things coming together, I think are a great, unique opportunity for faith
It can be
community.
a safe place too, because sometimes dark stuff comes out. You just have something that's going on and you want to just put it out there on a canvas, whether it's a bit evocative or something like that, emotive, whatever. It should be a safe place for that person to do that as well, because then they can share their testimony about, this is what I was feeling at the time, but I'm out of that now. Or this is, at the time I was dealing with this and this is what came out at that time. And then people can encourage them and say, we're here for you. Thanks for sharing that. We're here for you. If you go through that time again, please come and speak to us and share, and we'll encourage you through that.
Yeah, I think in the last episode you showed a piece of your artwork and it was like that. When you look at that, it's got some dark elements to it, but it's actually the reality of a human experience, and all those elements coming together and they communicate something powerfully. So, and
that just developed out of inspiration that just came to me. And I didn't realize that until now, almost a year later. I'm looking back at that and I was like, oh, wow, that was something that I was going through at the time.
Excellent. So once you find yourself in various creative spaces, because, like I said, I've been dabbling a little bit with sketching and I get inspired for a few weeks and then I sort of put it down and I lose motivation. How do you keep yourself motivated? Because you're not going to get better unless you keep at it consistently, right?
This is an easy question for me because I have got numerous things on the go all the time.
Right, okay.
I don't think I could ever be bored. I've got 4 art projects going on right now. I've got a couple of video projects going on. I've got, all this stuff going on. It's finding the time to, finalize all that stuff. I'm trying to learn the ability of focusing and being in the moment and doing what I need to do. And even scheduling times to be creative, scheduling those things in so that I've got time to do it all. As well as job and all the other things that come around that family. So for me, I don't really have times of it. There was this, I think it was lockdown number 4, or was it number 5? I'm not sure. I really struggled with it. I think I got really down and I just didn't have any inspiration at all. And, I picked up a paint by numbers.
Wow.
My daughter got one and I got one as well.
Yeah.
She got one to just do as a bit of a project for herself during lockdown. And so I was like, I'm going to do this too. So there was one of a tiger.
Nice.
And I just did it. And it was quite enjoyable and therapeutic. And it allowed me some artistic output. And I just got it through it, and I changed the colours to what I wanted them to be rather than what their colours were.
Yep.
And so it just kept me going, and it kind of got me out of that funk too of just being down and depressed, and I had something to do and keep going.
Yeah, I think sometimes, people say the hardest part of jogging is putting your shoes on. And sometimes the hardest part with being creative is actually just stepping out and doing it.
Yeah.
But once you get the easel out and you get the paints out and you start to do it, it sort of re-sparks some of that enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I've been doing little devotions on motivation and all that kind of stuff. And one of the great quotes that I heard was, don't try and do an hour's worth of work. Try to do 2 minutes worth of work. If you can get to that point of doing 2 minutes worth of work, you'll be amazed at how that 2 minutes will stretch to half an hour to an hour.
Yep. It's just getting started.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Very good. So I don't like to generalize, but when I've worked with artistic types before, sometimes I find, particularly if I'm the client, that they're a little bit precious to feedback. So they give you a design or something, you're like, actually, it's not what I was looking for. I don't like that bit. And they can get a bit precious and a bit resistant to feedback. How do you find feedback, and do you encourage feedback, and how do you respond when it's not what you're expecting?
When it's the commercial side of things, when it's like if I'm designing a brochure or a logo or something like that, I can't be precious.
Yeah.
It's all about the client. It's all about the client and meeting their expectations as well as meeting the market expectations. And there's also points that you need to match. And if that logo is not meeting the standard of which, well, for instance, their competitors, where their competitors are at, and they can't match that in the marketplace, then I failed in my job. So that in that place, I can't really have an opinion. I can say I did this because I think this, or I've done my research and I think this is the best way to go. But ultimately, it's the client's yes or no that's going to get that job through. So I've quickly learnt that in the commercial side of things, I can do the best presentations and do the best work, but if the client doesn't like it, I can't take that personally. I'm a very harsh critic on myself, so I'll ask myself why and what could I do better and all that kind of stuff. But you can't really take that personally. When it's my own artwork and the things that I enjoy doing, if somebody doesn't like it, who cares?
It's okay.
Whatever. It's not their taste. It's not what they like. They don't like, what it's portraying, or they don't, if it's street art and it's a very up-to-do person and they just don't like that style, oh well. I can't change them and what they like. I've just got to be true to myself, true to what I like and what inspires me, and what encourages me and motivates me to do work, I'll do that.
So feedback's important at different levels at different times. Sometimes it's really important. And you can't be precious.
I really appreciate, like when I was doing the painting that we saw before, we were in these little critique groups, and we had to do preliminary sketches, then we had to do separate character sketches, and we had to have actually defined words of what the painting was trying to portray and things like that. So we had to have direction for it. And then we did final sketches, and each way along the step the little critique groups we were in, we had to, before we could move into the next phase, critique each work in our group. So we had to create a critique for other people's work. And one of the things that the one guy said to me was, I had the pig, the hog, was actually another tiger, but he just looked really mean and nasty. And the guy said, well, why don't you make that a pig? Because that's something that a tiger will actually eat and devour as their food, but he can also be influenced by the negativeness and the nastiness that he's spitting at him, and he can actually be contained and put down by that and not do what he's supposed to do because of that. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. And implemented that.
So sometimes that input, there's wisdom and discernment in the counsel of many. Sometimes when you invite that feedback, it's not to say, hey, you're rubbish, you're no good, you suck. It's to say, hey, I reckon we could do this, this, and this. And sometimes those ideas actually shape the project to make it even better.
And you've got to be humble enough to be able to accept people's critiques. I will listen to everybody and what they say and what they think honestly. I'll evaluate it and either trash it or believe in it and change.
Now, I've heard someone say once before that you always got to look for the kernel of truth in the criticism.
Yeah.
So someone might say, that's a complete piece of rubbish, and you go, well, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't like this, this, and this. But you might go, oh, okay, that's interesting. You picked that part up. I felt that was a bit weak. I'm going to work on that part. And so I think being open to feedback is really important in whatever we do.
Sure.
So to finish up this episode, how would you encourage young people who are wanting to one day work full-time in the arts, but they don't really know how to develop their skills as they prepare? What would you say to them? And we might have covered some of it already.
Yeah. You've got to think about it not just as a hobby or just something you do on the side. You've got to really be focused on it. And like any area in life, there's many different classes you could do. There's many workshops. There's so much online that you could learn. To be a good painter, you have to have good technique. So you might be learning how to use different types of paints and all those things. There's a lot of learning to do that will only enhance what you do. Same with a sports person. They might have some innate skills that can get them to a place, but to stay in that place and to elevate above that place, like a Dustin Martin, who is very good at what he does, but then to raise to that next level, he wasn't there 5-6 years ago. He's worked into that place and is elevated. And we'll be back next year too.
So that base skill and competency you have, you've got to keep working hard to develop it, because it's a gift from God that you want to use for His glory.
And you never know where it's going to lead. You just got to keep on track and keep focused and keep practicing daily and all those things.
Very good. So to wrap up, curiosity killed the cat, but it can also open doors. And so cultivate curiosity in what you're doing with your art and your just in life. And I think that'll take you places that you wouldn't expect, and I think your life is a testimony of that. So thank you for sharing that, and I hope that inspires some people that are watching today to keep being curious, keep asking questions, be like a sponge where you absorb things from people that are ahead of you. Don't be scared of feedback, and as you do all that, you'll develop creativity and use it for God's glory to its maximum potential. So thanks again for tuning into another episode of the AsOne Leadership Podcast. That's part 3 of our 4-part mini-series, and so we're coming back next time for our last part with Clinton, and I hope that it's going to help you engage with the arts and mission. If you're finding this content helpful and you're watching it on YouTube, make sure you press the like button and subscribe, and if you're listening on your favourite podcast provider, make sure you leave us a 5-star review and write down some comments. And if you think this content is helpful for other people, and particularly right now in arts and mission, you might want to share this with them, and that would help them along the way. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the AsOne Leadership Podcast.